Welcome to Reels on the Rocks, the show where your host Whiskey and Sweet Tea discuss film from the unpretentious perspective. Dastardly duos, bad romances, crazy couples. Whatever you call them, these romantic pairings are a little unhinged. The Lonely Hearts Club is back for another season with the Phantom Thread. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and as always, please be advised that spoilers are ahead.
Welcome back, listeners, to another episode of Crazy Couples. Unless this is the first one you're listening to, and then, welcome back after that wild finale. So we're back. We're recovering from that horrible debacle. And I will add, I believe I said this in the last episode, but we were drunk enough that we forgot to thank you for listening all last year. So throwing it in both episodes just to make sure that we get that out there. But how are you, T?
I'm doing well. Finally recovered. Only took like a whole month, but no, I'm good.
So, Crazy Couples. We'll get right into it. What are you drinking in this episode, T?
Well, so I tracked down something they mentioned in the movie. It's called what's the word I'm looking for? It's called lapsing tea. It's a hot tea.
Yes. It is Reynolds' favorite type of tea that he specifically asked for at the restaurant. I was thinking of doing that. I didn't think that in my crappy local grocery stores they would have lapsing. And I waited until the last minute. I literally watched this 2 days ago. Mainly because I'd seen it before. So it's like, mainly just to rehash it. But I did wait for, I needed to come up with a beverage. So I'm kind of doing a similar thing. Spoilers, sort of. We'll get into spoilers, obviously. You heard the warning getting into this episode. I kind of want to slowly reveal what happens through the movie, kind of just based on how it's structured and stuff. But as a funny nod, if you've seen the movie, which in this case I recommend that you do see the movie before listening to this episode, I decided to do a mushroom coffee, which is super popular these days.
Okay,
I started. So my New Year's resolution is to be a little healthier, and supposedly these have a lot of health benefits. I don't fully buy into that, but I do kind of like having a low caffeine alternative for some mornings, and supposedly this is great for your gut health and everything. So I went with the Rise brand, which seems to be pretty popular. It's sold in Target and stuff, so no sponsor, just to be specific, I picked up one of their Vanilla Latte Plus beverages, so I'll be drinking that. Not if you know as to why mushrooms have anything to do with it.
Hey, at least it probably doesn't have the odor that lapsing tea does. Like, I actually bought this tea a while ago when I think after I first saw this movie. It's good. It's just super, super aromatic. Like, when I keep it in my pantry, I actually put the box in a Ziploc bag because it's that potent.
Interesting.
It's kind of just, it's a very odorous tea, but it's kind of a savory flavor, so that's nice. But yeah.
Interesting. I looked it up because I was like, oh, what is that? Obviously, and it said it was like a Chinese black tea. Mm-hmm. So I was thinking like a super dank English breakfast kind of vibe. So would you say that that's accurate? I've never had lapsing.
I don't know. It's to me it's really strong in flavor. To me it's too strong to have for me personally to have as a breakfast tea.
Maybe that's supposed to be kind of part of the character. I'm intrigued. I kind of want to try it.
It's like it smells.
Next time I'm in the tea aisle.
It smells like barbecue. And
interesting.
Even I had to.
So it's got like a smoky kind of.
Yeah, exactly. And even I couldn't. I actually had to order this online. I couldn't even find it. So unless you have like a tea, you probably have a tea specialty store around you somewhere.
Somewhere maybe. My sister also has been getting really into the tea. Like last time I visited her place, she had like a blueberry muffin tea, like all this crazy stuff. She actually showed me this brand, so I don't know. Maybe I'll see if she knows where the lap sync is. I will say again, I'm not in. We're not being sponsored by Rise Coffee or anything.
Oh my God.
But I will say I started trying it this year. It's pretty good. I mean, like, it tastes just like an instant coffee. Some people say they think it doesn't and it tastes gross, but I don't know. This tastes like, an instant vanilla latte you'd get from, like, Starbucks, and it's still in the same. So I don't know. Sometimes when I've made it in the past, I can smell the mushrooms, but my thing is, like, unless you are allergic to mushrooms or you just hate the taste of mushrooms, I don't really see anybody finding this necessarily disgusting.
I just know, even though we're not sponsored by it, I keep getting, like, hit with Rise ads, and I'm just like, according to every ad, it's going to solve all my problems.
It's so annoying. To be clear, let me say that I've been drinking it a bit. I like it, but I like it in the same way. Back in 2021, I kind of went on a health kick, and I swapped. I was having some crazy heart palpitations, so I wanted to lower my caffeine significantly, so I switched to tea in the morning. And that's kind of how I feel about Rise. All the stuff they're talking about, cortisol levels, yada, 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 gut health, blah. I don't know if that's true, but if you kind of want to cut back on the caffeine and have something that makes you feel a little bit better in the morning and not as jittery.
Or,
if it tastes good, if you like mushrooms, if you like instant coffee, it seems to taste that way to me. But anyway, let me get into the basics. We're talking about Phantom Thread, in case you can't read. Big deal movie, came out in 2018, January 19th. Budget of $35 million, grossed $52 million worldwide. Written and directed by the eponymous Paul Thomas Anderson, who some people will never shut up about in certain circles.
They call him PTA. Like, oh my God, did you see PTA, the PTA movie? And I'm like, oh my God, stop. If you're not a school organization.
I like him. I've never met the guy, and supposedly he's him and Tarantino annoyed some actress so much she, like, quit cocaine because they talked so much about movies. He doesn't seem as insufferable as Tarantino can be at times. He seems pretty... part of my source for this episode, I read a Vulture article that was an interview with him, and he seems like a pretty nice guy. And he's married to Maya Rudolph, so I don't know. Like, he definitely is like a movie guy, but he doesn't seem like a jerk about it or anything like that. And the inspiration for this movie is actually from Maya Rudolph. So he got really sick. And she had to, like, nurse him back to health. And as the story goes, she gave him this tender look that she'd never given to him before that just made him feel so loved and taken care of that he came up with kind of this movie. As we'll get into it, we'll reveal things in chronological order, because this is, to me, is like what you'd call a slow burn movie. For the first time I saw it, for most of the movie, I was kind of like, where is this going? Like, it almost seems to have no plot at first, and then something interesting starts happening. And then by the end of the film, my jaw was, like, on the floor when I saw, like, the ending.
I feel like it's,
so to speak.
It's definitely one of those movies. Because I remember when I saw it the first time, I sent you, this was my apparently next day reaction to it. I posted something on Facebook, and I shared it with you recently, and I was just like, I guess, like, I was not into it or whatever, but I feel like it's a movie that definitely benefits. Once you know what's going to happen, it's so much easier to enjoy.
Kinda, like, I sort of enjoyed the surprise, but for the last little bit of info before we start talking about it. So cast 3 characters I think worth mentioning. I could have probably listed more, although it is funny, a lot of it is just background actors that don't even have profile pictures on IMDb.
Yep.
So Vicky Krieps, I don't know how to pronounce it. It's Luxembourgian apparently, but she plays Alma. Daniel Day-Lewis plays Reynolds Woodcock, and Leslie Manville plays Cyril. This was nominated for 6 Oscars, and it won Best Costume Design, but it was also up for Best Lead Actor, Best Supporting Actress for Daniel Day-Lewis and Leslie Manville, Best Original Score, by Johnny Greenwood, and we've got a funny little current event kind of thing to talk about with him. Best director for P.T. Anderson, which he just always gets the nominee, never won yet. Even this year, I believe he's up for best director, if I'm remembering correctly. And Best Picture, which it didn't win either, but you know he's always nominated for all the big awards. And as far as now, I mean, his biggest winner was There Will Be Blood. Day-Lewis won. No, Day-Lewis did not win for that one. I remember that one actually went to one of the Coen brothers. Anyway. I might be remembering wrong. I just remember There Will Be Blood and No Country for Old Men were like the two big winners that year, and I always confuse who won what. I know No Country won Best Picture.
I mean, aesthetically, they're basically the same movie. I said aesthetically.
Kind of. I'd argue that No Country has much more of like a gritty kind of look to it. Plus, it has that, you know, early '80s time period thing, whereas There Will Be Blood's kind of more period piecey, and it's got more crisp cinematography.
I don't know, I still
definitely
thought it
appeals
gritty
to the same kind of people. Yeah. I'll say that.
Maybe that's what it is. They're basically,
but
I'm gonna upset people.
Outside of the Oscars, it was nominated for 121 awards, and it took 55 wins.
Mm-hmm. No, it's this one, right? Phantom Thread you're talking about, right? Again, right? 55 wins, 125 nominations.
Yes, Phantom Thread. It won 55 awards, but it was nominated for a total of 121 awards.
Wow.
So, big deal. Like I said, part of it's P.T. Anderson, but it's also, I think, definitely the movies. It's honestly, rewatching it, I'd argue it's one of his best movies. I liked it a lot when I first saw it a few years ago, but you said before recording that this is a nice little revisit, and I would agree. So before, again, we'll kind of reveal things in chronological order, but how did you like this viewing, and talk more about your initial reactions, because I don't think we've ever really discussed this behind the scenes either.
So on this, so when I saw this the first time, it was during its initial Oscar run. I went and saw it with a friend of mine, and I think we were both kind of just like, this is just so boring. These people are crazy. Like, what is this? What is this movie? Because I kind of feel like for portions of it, I think you got to this. You mentioned this. You're kind of like, where is this going? Like, for portions of it, it feels kind of like a slice of life movie. And then I think it's because there's stuff happening character building wise, but not necessarily plot wise, if that makes sense. And then sort of once the big plot moment happens the first time, that's when you're like, oh, okay, I can see where this is going. But so I didn't super enjoy it the first time. But re-watching it this time, though, it's such a nice world to visit. It's so beautifully crafted. The music is amazing. The costumes are amazing. The acting is really good. Is it still a slow burn? Yes. I would still say I kind of felt like it was still a slow burn, but I feel like I was, and maybe I could have just grown since I last saw this. I feel like I was more engrossed in it this time than I was last time. I really like it. Like, actually, I own the soundtrack for this on vinyl, because Ooh. I always thought it was, and I remember I'd already seen the movie, and I just remember I was at Barnes and Noble and the one over at the Grove, and I picked up because they called the soundtrack Lush, and I was like, okay, maybe because I was trying to, because this was during so I'd seen that at Barnes and Noble, and it was during COVID. I think I ordered it actually, because I was like, I want more. I was working from home. I want more instrumental music to listen to at home. So I ordered it, and it is such a beautiful, beautiful soundtrack to just listen and have on your own. Unfortunately, it's currently being tainted, sadly.
Okay, so I do know
about that. But there's so many individual beautiful pieces about this movie that I still am not totally sold on the story for this. But this is a movie based on this watching I really, really, really enjoy for the aesthetics and the vibes. And I can tell I know there's a story going on there. I see what's happening. I'm just not sure I particularly care for it. Maybe I'll discover that towards the end. But there's so much beauty in this movie.
And that's where, like, so we'll touch on the soundtrack thing right now since you mentioned how much you like it. So the original score was done by Johnny Greenwood, who some of you might know as the lead guitarist for the insanely popular band Radiohead.
Shut up. Are you serious? He did the music for this?
Yeah.
I just think it's so funny.
Yeah,
just that,
Radiohead.
It's just with his name being Johnny Greenwood, like I thought we were going to say something super like foreign sounding. I don't know why, but it was just like,
no.
It's so beautiful.
Well, frankly, if you haven't listened to Radiohead T, they are pretty good. They were like the quintessential, insufferable hipster band that the cool, coffee drinking, I only watch films on 35 millimeter. Get that digital out of here. Those types of people loved Radiohead, and I hated them when I was a teenager, but they're right. There's a great band. Excellent, check them out if you haven't. But what's funny, so recently, this is not a political podcast, but it is kind of funny. So as of recording this current year, if you're listening to this episode back 5 years,
the year of our Lord 2026,
the year of our Lord 2026, the Melania documentary came out at this point, I think 2-3 weeks ago. And Johnny Greenwood and Paul Thomas Anderson have both demanded the removal of the score for Phantom Thread that was used in Melania, which that's a weird choice. It's a beautiful score, so I guess they wanted to have kind of an elegant sort of thing for the movie. What's interesting is they're alleging that no permission was asked, which is shocking. Maybe it's because they think Trump's just going to shut it down or something, but supposedly, Brett Ratner should know better than that. It's all you got to do is, ask for permission, pay royalties. Politically tumultuous time, so very understandable. Maybe they thought that there was no way of getting the score. But also, this is an $85 million documentary somehow. So, couldn't you have just paid for a composer to make original music for Melania?
Right.
Politics aside, it is just such a flabbergasting kind of claim to make that just makes you, you know what I mean? Again, we're not going to get into, how it may or may not be state-sponsored propaganda, but it's when I think I even sent it to you. I don't know if you responded to it or whatever, but I was just kind of are you kidding me? Really? You couldn't have paid the royalties for the score? Because it sounds obviously, I'm guessing Johnny Greenwood and P.T. Anderson probably aren't big fans of the administration, but it doesn't seem like they're alleging that that's the reason. It sounds like it's just they didn't get permission or get paid for it. So, frankly, kind of an obvious they're in the right situation.
Do you know how much of the score was used? Was it just one theme, or were they kind of used throughout?
I was kind of looking into that, and it just said the score, so I have not seen Melania, and I frankly kind of don't ever want to, so I don't know. I think it also might have just been, because you're familiar with the soundtrack, I think it might have said that there was a track named Phantom Thread.
Yes.
Okay, you'd be familiar with that. So I think that is literally the song that was used. Because it was it's weird, it was the Google AI summary thing, because I couldn't find any good information. It was all just anyway. But it sounds like if it was one singular track, it was just called Phantom Thread.
Which that was, and there's 3 Phantom Threads, because it's kind of it has a recurring theme throughout. There's Phantom Thread 1, 2, and 3. And so my guess is I'm assuming it's probably the first one, because that's the one that plays at the very beginning.
Right. Oh yeah, no. Oh, that's like the opening sequence, right, where he's like opening up his shop and he's letting the seamstresses
Yeah.
in and good morning everybody. Okay, I bet you're right, because that was the most like. If I were going to use one of the songs for a documentary, I'd probably use that one, especially if you're trying to make the subject look very like elegant and important and stuff like that. I'm guessing that's probably the one that they picked. But it is a funny situation and it was worth bringing up, and anyone who's listened to this show for any amount of time, we have this weird luck of like whenever we talk about a movie, for some reason it'll be relevant around the time we're recording.
Right.
So like what the whenever the news dropped, I think it was a week ago, it might have been 2 weeks ago, but when I was reading that, I'm like, oh man, we're about to talk about Phantom Thread. That's kind of funny timing. Who knows by the time this episode goes up if it'll still be relevant, or if a settlement will have been reached, or if the music will have been removed from, because it's still playing in theaters somehow. So maybe they'll like remove the music and put it back. I don't know. But I guess we'll find out as time ticks on. But so we'll talk about the movie now. So I'm going to break it up just so we don't reveal the final spoiler until the end of the episode. I do think this actually is neatly broken up into 3 acts. We have the introduction, then we have what Alma is up to for like the middle chunk of the movie, and then we have kind of the big reveal in the very end of the movie. So the setup, we have this very successful and like big name fashion designer named Reynolds Woodcock, and him and his sister run this like fashion business. He makes dresses for women, but he makes them for like socialites, politicians,
royalty,
the cream of the crop. Like he is the guy you go to if you want like the most elegant, expensive, beautiful dress. And he's also just this sort of eccentric character. He's very particular about things. He's very much like an artist in the way that like he wants things done his way. And he takes personal interest in kind of women modeling his dresses. It's sort of hinted at early in the film that he's sort of having a relationship with a woman who's coming in and taking on a dress, and they're like, when are you gonna, make this official and stuff? And he's kind of over it at that point.
Yeah.
So we see like he kind of has this, he takes on like women that he's especially interested in as sort of a muse for his art, and they usually model his dresses
until he's no longer amused.
Exactly. So he's kind of moving on. And it's sort of introduced that Alma gets more into this during like a voiceover later in the movie, but he has these cycles of like working and then sort of taking a break. And so it would seem, knowing that in the future, that this is sort of the end of one of those cycles, because, he makes the dress, everybody's like applauding, oh my God, you did it again. And then kind of at the very beginning, he takes this drive into the country, and he has this breakfast that Binging with Babish did a great episode on. That really makes me want the breakfast so badly. The scones,
the Welsh rabbit with a
and
poached egg on top, scones, sausages, bacon, jams, not strawberry, raspberries, okay, a pot of lapsing tea, clotted cream. I think that's it. I watched.
I think you ordered it just the way he did. No, it looks so good. Also, it's kind of funny because it looks like such an unhealthy breakfast, and the guy's like rail skinny.
Which actually, that's something I wanted to bring up. What is this deal with him and eating? He eats a ton of food, and it's enough to where Alma actually comments on it a few times. Like, what is that supposed to symbolize something, or like what is the deal with that? Or it's like, to me, it's like in a movie where everything was so intentional, like that's such a weird thing to add without it meaning something. Like even like on when he first meets her, she writes on the thing, my name for the hungry boy. Because it's like, yeah, he orders enough food for a table. It's nuts.
Right. Not that I could find in my research, but I do think so my theory, so one, I'm just gonna say I've known a lot of skinny people where it's like their stomach is a black hole that just sucks down the food and they somehow never put on weight. So I will say, just in general, that is like a type of person that exists that's like rail skinny. But when you go out to eat with them, they just are somehow able to put away just like a metric ton of food and never put on any weight. So I don't like, my thoughts is like, oh, he's just that kind of skinny person who can just eat a lot of food. Also, sometimes he's very particular about his food. Like, it kind of makes me think when he's in a work frenzy that he probably like doesn't eat when he's making a new dress or dresses. Okay. Like it doesn't say that explicitly in the movie, but kind of based on his pattern of behavior, I could see like, oh, when he's working, maybe he hardly eats. And then when he's taking his break, he just like,
he really eats
like a horse. But yes, so that's when he meets Alma. She's his waitress. And he's so enamored with her that he asks her to dinner, very like formally as she's like, bringing him his bill. And she agrees, and they go out and they have a really good time. And that's kind of the setup. Especially like going into their relationship. One thing that's very kind of characteristic of Alma is that she's not intimidated by him. Despite like his prowess as a fashion designer, she doesn't take his shit. Whether it's the beginning of the relationship or like later on, like she's not afraid to, when everyone's telling her, oh, I don't think that would be a good idea to surprise him, like she's just gonna do it anyway. And the vibe I kind of get from Reynolds is that he likes that about her, almost sort of like every other woman he has had his little relationship with just goes along with whatever he wants or tells them to do. And I think he kind of likes that Alma fights back a bit more.
I don't think he likes it as much at first. At the very, very beginning, because the first time he has her, and I've always liked this scene, the first time he has her try on a dress for him, and he comes in and he takes her measurements and everything like that. He gets upset with her because she changed the way she's standing, and she's like, I'm standing normally. Like, they have a little like back and forth, and she finally ends with, she says, well, you should have said that before. Like, she's calling him out like, dude, there's like really no difference here. And then it's like, she is, by her saying that, she is now the dominant person in the conversation. So he immediately has to take that position back. And that's when he tells her, well, you don't have any breasts. And she's like, oh, yeah, I know, I'm sorry. But it's like, I've always loved that because it's like, he couldn't like let himself not be in control for that, like even those 3 seconds. Like, that's like, I always thought that was like a perfect way to illustrate both of their characters and how they react to each other.
Well, and you're picking up on something important, too, because in that interview from Vulture that I read, P.T. Anderson actually said that was one of his favorite lines of dialogue in the movie was when she says, like, I can stand longer than anybody.
Yeah.
And he thought that was such a good kind of display of how she's patient and she can... Because... again, like it's sort of an ongoing back and forth between them, but it's like she has endurance and she won't stop.
Well, I mean,
like even if she loses the battle, she'll win the war kind of thing, when, they're bickering together. So even the director kind of liked that sort of exchange between them.
No, that particular scene. So that scene even blew up in the ASMR community. And I find it super relaxing. Also, just watching them move the fabric around, the measuring.
One thing I definitely agree with you on, because I enjoyed this the first time watching it, but on a subsequent viewing. It's like a mood piece. Like it's a very like calming kind of a chill movie, yes. I guess, for lack of a better word. And it is just very beautiful. Like I'm always talking about cinematography. I like that nothing really ostentatious happens. It looks like fashion photography for a lot of the movie. I'd say like one of the more like showy shots that happens is when he's driving. The camera's just like put on the hood of the car, and there's almost kind of it's not a fisheye, but it has that sort of tunnel vision look to it. And then for the reverse shot, it's the same sort of thing where it's outside the windshield, and there's just sort of this almost like telescoped kind of view of like how he looks inside the car that you see when he's driving or when he's with Alma. But the cinematography is very like basic, and not in a bad way. Just again, it kind of looks like a Vogue article come to life.
Yes.
Or Vogue photo shoot come to life.
Yes, it actually reminds me of, there was the company Condé Nast. They own like, is it Vogue or is it Vanity Fair? They own a bunch of these magazines anyway. They sold out, I guess, at one point prints from some of their historic issues for art display. There's one that I was looking at my local Home Goods, and it looks a lot like a scene from this movie. I'll have to send you a picture of it later, but yes, when you're talking about it looks like it's from a fashion magazine, absolutely, it totally reminds me of that.
I'm glad I'm right for once. No, but
you're wrong. You're absolutely wrong. No.
But I think that kind of covers the setup. So we have our two leads. They are in love. Like, the relationship gets more serious. She kind of moves in with him. They have a couple of like good scenes together. One that comes back later is their first dinner together. He's sort of opening up to Alma about his life, how he got into fashion and how he made dresses for his mother, and how his mother was such an important figure in his life. And he shows her this photo of her and, the dress that he made for her. And I love, that's like another good character moment with him where he's like, the idea of the dead looking after the living is not spooky to me. It's actually very comforting.
Yeah.
Like, which it's a good kind of, because another sort of thing about him, I feel like you show this film to like a frat bro and they'd probably call Reynolds a pussy.
Yeah.
Or gay. But he's actually like, he's a very strong dude, in personality and stuff, and I like that line both because it gives you an idea of his relationship with his mother, but it also shows that like things that would scare other people just don't scare him, and like his idea of like his mom is like watching him succeed is kind of giving him fuel, which is kind of sweet, to be honest.
Right.
The dude's kind of douchey sometimes throughout the movie, but he has these moments. What?
I'd say he's douchey most of the time.
Most of the time. You know what I mean. Like, he's, I don't know, he has his, like, tender moments. And that's kind of, it's almost like Alma's the one person who understands him a little bit. Or, like, just doesn't care when he's being douchey. But I think that kind of gets in, we've laid out the groundwork. So, they have kind of their first big fight. And I'm trying to remember. Do you remember exactly? It's funny. I just saw this 2 days ago.
Okay, their first fight.
I guess it's because of how many fights they have. But what was it again? Was it something to do with the dress?
Okay, so for me, the first fight I remember seeing in the movie is the one over breakfast after she moves in.
Oh, okay.
I love that scene.
That
scene is so good, and I love when it's so obvious, because this comes up a lot of times. It's so obvious when Alma knows what she's doing is irritating him. She kind of learns what irritates him in this first scene, and it's like, dude, you need to calm down. This is how normal people live. They butter their toast. Like, calm down. But then she kind of uses that later when she wants to, and she's upset at him or whatever, and she wants to be irritating. She's just loud. She'll like, I'm gonna sit here and shake the dice in the cup for an extra amount of long time because I know she's so obnoxious, and I'm here for it. Like, when she needs to be, and she really kind of picks up on it in this first fight scene. Which, by the way, that dining room that shows up, they're in all the time, is major goals. I'm like, oh, that's so pretty. I want to like wallpaper my own dining room like that. But yeah, that's like the first big fight that I remember is that one. It's not really big, but it's definitely notable.
I'm glad we're talking about the fights, because it's coming back to me. So that's like their first big fight. And it is funny. Like, frankly, rewatching this, I kind of now am wondering if Reynolds has like Asperger's or something. Because his sensory sensitivity almost kind of makes me feel like he might be on the spectrum or something.
So just
because like I forgot about that scene, but the whole buttering toast, it's sort of like, you know, when people get like, because some people can't go to like movie theaters because of the popcorn noise and stuff, like distracts them. Yeah. Exactly. So I'm kind of on this. It didn't come to me when I first saw this, but viewing it now, I'm like, you know, yeah. And I didn't see anything in my research, but it kind of makes me wonder if that was like something that Daniel Day-Lewis like thought of, like, oh, maybe, or who knows. But yes, so that was a funny little fight that they had, and it kind of showed where Reynolds is a little ridiculous sometimes with the sort of things that'll upset him.
I know. I love how she's sitting there buttering her toast, and he goes, "It's far too much movement at breakfast." He like gets up and leaves. And I'm just like, how do you eat? And it's so funny. If you look at the food that he eats at breakfast, because we get an overhead shot, all of his food is fairly quiet. It's like soft croissants or a cinnamon roll or something, and then like tea. And she's the only one that's having anything that could be considered crunchy. And I think that also illustrates how, like, you know, her arrival kind of disrupts his flow, or at least the way he's used to it.
Yes. And this also, like, going forward with the movie, I don't know if I thought this last time, but Leslie Manville, I'm glad she got nominated for Best Supporting Actress, because she is one of the more interesting characters. I get, like,
she's
with the movie,
my favorite in this movie. I love Cyril so much.
Because she's sort of his handler. She knows her brother better than everybody. She knows what gets on his nerves, and she likes Alma, and at the very beginning, she's like, just listen to me. Like, I know what you're trying to do, but it's not going to go over the way that you think it is. And she's sort of the mediator between the two of them. Yeah. And that's where the big fight starts. It all came back to me. I'm glad we're talking about the fights, because the big fight that happens is that Alma wants to surprise him.
Yeah.
With something. I think it was his birthday. I forget.
No, it wasn't. She
wants to make him...
That was the point. It wasn't anything important. She just wanted to surprise him for dinner. Cyril even says, it's not his birthday.
That's right. But so, yeah, she really wanted to make him dinner, and she made what she wanted to make regardless of whether he likes it, and that's a whole thing, too. It's like, dang it, he even talks about it in the scene.
He makes her asparagus cooked in, I think it's in butter.
No, she makes him. Yeah. You said he makes her. She makes him asparagus cooked in butter, but he likes it in oil with salt.
Yes.
Which that's like a whole thing with him too. He like hates too much butter on anything.
But like, it's so wild to me because like butter is literally oil and salt and then also cream. But it's he's so particular that disturbs him.
Well, and it's so funny considering, again, that first breakfast he eats when
he basically eats everything.
Not too much butter, but yeah, you want just like, you know, clotted cream and all this stuff that'll just give you crazy amounts of
just like fats and sugar,
cholesterol.
That too.
It's funny. But yeah, so that's the thing that sends her, like, she's pissed off now, and this is where it took a turn for me, because for that whole thing, rewatching it now, it's setting up the movie, but now we get into the moment where shit hits the fan, and Alma poisons his lapsang tea with mushrooms.
Yes.
Poisonous mushrooms, specifically. And we see it happen, and this was kind of where... Because the other thing about this movie, so you saw it in theaters, I missed it, but I wanted to see it. But part of the reason I think I wasn't super motivated, as well as like other movies that were coming out at the time, was because this was one of those movies where they didn't really say what it was about.
Yeah.
Like, all you really knew going into it was a romance, and it was about like a fashion designer.
Yeah, that doesn't sound like one that you personally would run to see.
Yeah, it's it's like, again, it looked really good. It also, the big thing that was selling the movie at the time was this was supposed to be Daniel Day-Lewis's final performance. As of the last like couple of months, he just, you know, acted in his own son's film that his son directed. So that turned out not to be true. But like, this was supposed to be his last movie.
Right. I think I remember
that was kind of a thing.
I think I remember them saying like he had actually already retired and he came back out because he really, really liked the script. But this was supposed to be it.
So that was sort of the thing that made me want to go see it. The trailer just looked like it was going to be like a slice of life or something. So this was where it got interesting for me, because I was like, oh my god, she's crazy. She's trying to kill him. And so the next part of the movie is him getting very sick and her sort of nursing him back to health, which is where, as I said at the beginning of this episode, the idea came from when Anderson was sick and his wife, Maya Rudolph, nursed him back to health, and how kind of
I don't know if Maya
close that made him feel to his wife, and how like him being in kind of a submissive role to her was sort of it made him feel very like loved and taken care of.
This is giving us way too much insight into their life. Like basically he's telling us they have a dom sub relationship, and also the movie the thing that inspired him to make this movie basically is based on something she did, and the movie's about this chick poisoning her like man. I was like, Maya, I don't know if I'd be complimented by this.
Right? Well, and that's kind of the thing. Like, she didn't poison P.T. Anderson. He just sort of was like, oh, this is sort of an interesting dynamic that hasn't been in like a quote-unquote romance. So it's sort of an interesting idea. And we'll get back to it because there is like a final reveal literally in the last like minute of the movie, which is what makes this a slow burn for me. Because for 2/3 of the movie, up until like the very, very end, maybe even like 9/10 of the movie, I thought this was like, oh, because he doesn't die. She nurses him back to health. And he has like a come to God moment. Like he hallucinates seeing his dead mother watching over him, which is kind of a spooky scene that turns a little bit less spooky because, you know, he feels like very, you know, he starts like weeping almost, maybe not weeping, like tears are coming out of his eyes because
he's very moved by the vision.
Yes. So it kind of makes it feel like, oh my god, maybe she's not going to kill him, but she's kind of abusive to him. And that kind of got interesting too, because he's sort of like, you could argue he's abusive to her when he's like, you know, fully recovered and stuff.
He is verbally abusive. He is. He's verbally and emotionally abusive.
So that's kind of where it got interesting, because it's like, is this where it's going? Is it just going to be like, you know, anytime he like shit talks her, she's going to poison him with mushrooms or whatever. But it only kind of happens the one time. Well, and I think this will be a good time to go into
twice.
Well, the second time is when the big reveal happens. That's true. So we'll save on that a little bit longer here. But I'm going to get into, I made a couple of notes. The Vulture article I'm referring to was an interview with Paul Thomas Anderson by Kyle Buchanan. And the whole thing is worth a read. I'll send the link over so we'll have like a link in the description on, you know, wherever we can post a link in the description. But it was a good interview. But there's like a couple of things that were, so first off, the origin of the name Reynolds Woodcock is actually kind of funny. Kyle Buchanan like talks to Paul Thomas Anderson about how he's like very good at coming up with names for characters. He mentions Dirk Diggler from, which is a really good porn name. Before I even saw the movie, that name just cracked me up. And then he brought up, I should have written it down, but the name of the cult leader in The Master, you know, who was based on the cult leader behind Scientology, but he couldn't say that or else he'd get sued into oblivion. But that character's name was also very funny and catchy. But apparently the way that they came up with Reynolds Woodcock, it was actually him and Daniel Day-Lewis were like texting each other back and forth. And they were trying to make each other laugh. And like they kept coming up with silly sounding names that you could imagine like a British gentleman having. And eventually Daniel Day-Lewis was the one who came up with Reynolds Woodcock. And so that's where the name came from. Because, yeah, I'm sure anyone watching this, like when they heard, because it is a funny name, especially knowing that he's like the greatest fashion designer of his time. Like, imagine getting a dress from Woodcock.
Right, House of Woodcock, exactly.
The House of Woodcock. But so the funny little side note with that. But the thing, because I kind of wanted to get at what he thinks this is about, because I've got my own idea. But he was trying to make a romantic movie, and according to him, he, in the interview, he says that like kind of what sparked him wanting to do a movie like this. I don't know if it was before or after he got sick, but apparently it was Chris Rock asked him like, "Oh, when are you going to do a relationship movie?" To which the interviewer Buchanan like says, "Oh, all your past movies are kind of relationship movies. They're not like romances." To which he says, "Yeah, that's sort of true." But he wanted to do like a romance, and he thinks that this film sort of tackles what it means to be in a relationship, who's in the driver's seat and who's in the passenger seat, and also to delicately exchange those roles. That's like the quote I wrote down.
I would not,
which I think is interesting.
I would not classify this as a delicate exchanging of roles at all. I mean, to exchange the roles, basically one of them has to be poisoned. I wouldn't call that delicate.
Right? It's interesting, right? Like, because they're both, most of the time I did, especially the first time watching this before she poisoned his tea, I did feel bad for her, but it's kind of funny how just doing that suddenly makes me be like, oh my god, she's gonna kill him. And suddenly I'm like, oh, they're kind of shitty to each other. Like, as much as I don't like him being a dick to her, it's like, just leave. You could just end the relationship. No one's forcing you to be there.
Wow.
Which makes her an interesting character, too.
Whiskey's victim blaming.
I mean, the second you murder somebody, you know what I mean? But that's not victim blaming.
Did he die, though?
If I call you a meanie poo pants, that doesn't give you the right to shoot me in the face.
I was victimized by that comment.
Well, good thing we're not recording in the same room, so you can't put cordyceps in my coffee that already has cordyceps in it.
Which, by the way, the book she looks at, that's a real classic book. I mean, I looked it up again because I was like, I kind of want to have one of these. And
it's useful.
It's useful to have.
Especially, it's not entertainment news, but speaking of weirdly topical things happening when we're recording, there was a news story recently that there was a spike in mushroom poisoning, I think in California. It might have been like Washington or Oregon, but in the Pacific Northwest somewhere, a lot of people have, I guess, been foraging for their own mushrooms, and there's been a lot of people getting like poisoned by it. So...
Well, and then in the last...
good book to have. It seems to be very, very...
It has these super detailed illustrations.
Seriously.
And then, of course, there was that case a year ago where that chef poisoned her, family or something. With mushrooms.
So... And then the last thing from the interview I thought was worth writing down. So he says it's tackling the interplay of leadership, I guess, in relationships, or at least that's what he's saying, that the kind of messed up little tit for tat they're doing is. The last thing that it's sort of about is slowing down. He kind of likened Reynolds' cycle, as well as him getting poisoned, as like when he said that he felt overscheduled or like too busy. He said he would fantasize about getting hit by a car.
Oh, okay, that's healthy. But yeah, I kind of get where he's coming from.
You know what I mean? So it's like he doesn't literally want to die, but like he wished that there was something that would happen to him that would give him an excuse to do no work. So I get that. Again, like it's showing there is a process to this, and this is why I thought it was kind of useful seeing like the behind the scenes and like what, because it's when you see this movie, you sort of think like, oh, this is about abuse, or this is about, but it is kind of interesting to hear, because first it starts off, oh, my wife took care of me when I was sick. Oh, man, it was also nice to kind of get a break from working, get a reminder that my wife loved me and stuff. So, hey, what if there was like a couple where that was like an intentional thing to like get him to calm down or whatever. And it like late enough in the podcast, I think it's worth. So the second time Alma poisons him, it's after, so she nurses him back to health. It kind of boosts their relationship. They have fewer fights. They seem to be kind of close again. And then it happens again. I don't even think they have a fight, if I remember correctly, but it's just like it goes back to that. And the thing that is so...
The second time she poisons him?
Yes.
Well, that happens right after that scene where he goes into Cyril's office and he was like, oh my god, she's disordered things.
Yes.
I think I've made a mistake. She casts a long shadow of death across the house. So the second time I always interpreted it as a form of revenge for that. And she put so many more mushrooms than she did the first time. I thought she was actually trying to kill him this time.
Right? But by that point, this is literally like at this point, there's like a minute left in the movie. And the sort of jaw-dropping thing I was alluding to that I think is what makes this movie so interesting the first time watching it, is you find out he knows. You find out that he, like, you know, she says, like, oh, you're going to feel like you're dying, but I won't let you die. As she's, like, feeding him the mushrooms and stuff. And then the final line of the movie, which is like one of the more famous lines in the movie, is like after she basically says, I poisoned you, you're going to feel like shit, but I'm going to nurse you back to health. He says, kiss me before I'm sick.
Right.
Which made the movie for me when I first watched this, because I was just like, oh my god, he knows. He knows and he's okay with it, and this is like a kink for them.
Well, he knows this time. He didn't know the first time.
No, I don't think he knew the first time. Although, like, after she said that to him, I think he put two and two together.
Yeah.
And so this is why this is part of Crazy Couples, and why I warned a second time to see the movie before listening to this podcast. Because for me, I like being surprised. I think that you're right, though, T. On subsequent viewings, this actually gets even better.
Yeah.
Knowing where it's going, because it kind of makes you look more critically at their past relationship.
Yes.
Because the first time I sort of was just like, wow, they both suck. I definitely got more into it once she poisoned him the first time, because I thought, oh my god, this is going to turn into like a murder thing. Like, he's probably going to die and she's going to take over the business and blah, blah. And maybe she was like a criminal, because it's also very vague. She's like she's from like a different country, and it's kind of like, oh, who knows? Maybe she's a Black Widow. Maybe she's had multiple rich husbands and this is like a thing that she does.
Right,
your mind starts to race. But that final reveal that this is just like a thing that they like doing, almost like a role play kind of thing, was like stand up in my seat clapping, at least for me. And rewatching it's been very interesting, because the relationship has moments where it is very romantic. Going back to like the middle of the film, I don't know how you liked this, but I thought it was kind of cool, that bit where he has made a dress for this socialite. She might be like an actress, some famous lady. And she's just sort of like a drunk train wreck.
Yeah.
And then Alma's just like, she doesn't deserve to wear your dress, and then they like steal the dress back from her.
I think that's kind of I think that, to me, that's the moment where we as the audience know that Alma's all in on this. She's not just in it for to me, that kind of alleviates any she's just in this for the status or the money or the prestige. She actually cares about that sort of a thing.
Yeah. And that was the thing, too, where I'm kind of thinking, wait, was that before or after she poisoned him? I think it is after she poisoned him, but before he was like...
I'm pretty sure that's before.
It is before. Okay. But it's like one of the few... I say that they have a couple of moments of being sweet together, and I think it keeps you from fully hating their relationship. Because same deal, like their first dinner together is really sweet. And it just... I don't know. And that too, also, when he proposes to her is kind of, manipulated. It's literally the day after he has a vision of his mother watching over him. But there's like weird romantic moments in the film where they're not being shitty to each other.
Right. But it's just like there's so much wrong with these people. There is so much wrong with these people.
There's there's a reason this is crazy couples. But that's the other thing too. So the other film that we talk about in our other episode, there's such a seesaw back and forth of like who you dislike.
Yeah.
And it's sort of the same in this one, but just the same as its slow burn and its slow pacing. It's like at first you think, oh, Miss Woodcock is a jerk. And then she poisons him, and then for the whole movie you're kind of like, oh my god, is he gonna die?
He's a jerk, but she's crazy.
Yes, and then the very end, it's like, oh, they're both crazy.
I know. I was just like, at the end, I was
they
like,
found each other.
That I think the ending is what threw me the first time, and why I was like, what is this? Because I was just like, I couldn't understand that sort of thing. But I do remember when you look up this movie online, it does classify it as psychological. And and I was, and to me, it's not psychological. What do you think? Or am I just misunderstanding what psychological is?
I mean, psychological doesn't necessarily have to be, a crime thing where they're like diagnosing someone with psychopathy or something. Like psychological just sort of implies that there's some kind of mind games going on.
Okay.
I think the fact that we don't understand the dynamic of their relationship up until the last minute of the movie, because again, like, and it's part of the reason why it was such a good second viewing, is because it's keeping you guessing. You're kind of trying to guess their character and what they're thinking about.
Yeah.
Throughout the whole movie. Like if you've seen the whole movie, you can go in and you remember what the deal is. But like psychological just kind of, I feel like a lot of dramas get sort of pigeonholed into that, because a lot of drama is just like the interplay of two characters clashing.
Right.
And you could argue like all drama is psychological, because it's, what's going on in their minds and all that sort of stuff. I don't know. I wouldn't consider it as psychological as, or I wouldn't consider it like a psychological thriller. This movie, this is sort of the thing with Paul Thomas Anderson's films, not to fully glaze him, as far as those types of directors that the art house snobs really like, it's hard to dislike the guy. I mean, like, I could hear a little bit of salt about There Will Be Blood earlier, but like the thing about his films is he never makes the same film a second time. Boogie Nights is much more of like a silly kind of like, the world of porn, and there's like a little bit of crime in it, but it's mostly kind of a goofy movie.
Yeah.
And then you have something like Punch Drunk Love, which is a romance like this sort of, except it's like more about a guy being blackmailed by some dude over the phone. And then There Will Be Blood is like this gritty period drama about oil and greed, and then you have something like this, or the film after this film, Licorice Pizza, which was just about like Paul Thomas Anderson's childhood in like Los Angeles in the 70s, early 80s. So it's interesting because he doesn't really do the same kinds of films, and it is kind of neat to see like, oh, this is him trying his hand at romance. But because he doesn't really get pigeonholed into one genre, it's sort of classified as all sorts of things. I saw some media, some reviews, some things in my research that called this a gothic romance, which, like, if you wanted to get nitty gritty, it's like the time period doesn't really work.
Yeah.
But you could, I see where the argument is coming from, because set this in the 19th century, have it be like,
it's basically
a
Wuthering
lord
Heights
and a duchess. And yeah, like it's not completely incorrect. It's just like you're not going to see like gothic imagery or anything like that.
Right. But I feel like there's a way to also evoke gothicness with visually without having it look like, it's shot in like an abbey.
Oh, for sure. I mean, we're not going to talk about it in this episode, but we've been going back and forth about Wuthering Heights and how, that is literally a gothic romance. But there's also some very like beautiful imagery in the book and films and everything. So it's not like it has to look like a Tim Burton movie. But I feel like gothic romance is kind of a good, I'd say like a drama, gothic romance, maybe psychological, but I feel like it's much more subdued than that. Again, like psychological, it's a hard thing to really like nail down what that means as a genre.
Right.
One thing that I think is very kind of intriguing, it's another thing before I got to see this film, you wonder about the title.
Yes.
Because again, the trailer was super vague. And I think it did kind of reveal that he's talking about how he would hide messages in his clothing. So that was something that intrigued me before I got a chance to see the film. But what do you think the title means, and what does it have to do with this strange dynamic with them? And do you think it has like kind of a bigger meaning to the story?
So I know that Phantom Thread, from what I know, is an actual phenomenon where people who are essentially seamstresses or people who sew basically all day, when they're done for the day, they'll leave, but they'll feel like they're still sewing. I mean, I've sort of experienced that just a little bit, where I've gone like rollerblading, and let's get back home, and I still I feel like I'm still on wheels. It's hard to describe why, but that's what a phantom thread is like they kind of feel like they get a sensation like they're still sewing or something like that, even though that's not what they're doing. I interpret it sort of as the way in which, after Alma realizes she has feelings for Reynolds, that she sort of kind of like figures out a way that she wants to keep him. And like, for lack of a better term, the thread she uses to sew them together. The situations and stuff she does. She like, cause she even not even like, the poisoning aside, she even goes up to any woman that he's like kind of like friendly with, and is like, "I live here, just so you know." Like, because there's certain scenes where I'm like, girl, why are you saying this? He's not remotely interested in her, like, at all. But that's how I interpret it, is like what Alma does to put the relationship, to keep the relationship going the way that she wants it to. That was the best guess I could come up with.
That's a good, interesting. I
feel like I'm totally wrong, but that was the best I could come up with.
No, I mean, this is the thing. We talked about this way back on our Mulholland Drive review, but the thing about interpreting art is it's not that you're right and someone else is wrong. I think everyone has some clever insight into it, and I actually I was researching more what the director had to say, so I didn't even look up what Phantom Thread was, but I know what you mean. I've had that before when I've been doing a physical activity. I think especially I don't ice skate, but I do roller skate, and I know exactly what you mean, especially like at those birthday parties when you would, it's time for the pizza and cake and you take the roller skates off and you're like, whoa,
exactly.
It feels so weird.
Exactly.
But I thought it was kind of interesting, again, going into it, I'm pretty sure that was in the trailer where it talked about him hiding messages in the clothing. So I knew about that going into it, but for the whole movie, first time watching it, and this time revisiting it, I was kind of like, what does that have to do with kind of the overall theme in it? I think the most obvious thing that some people will probably think is like how she's hiding something in his food, the same way he's hiding, a message in the clothing.
That's a good interpretation.
That's another interpretation. It's not really an interpretation now that I know that Phantom Thread is like another thing, but it is almost kind of I don't know, it's a parallel between the two of them. It is kind of an interesting
the ties that bind, the threads that bind.
I love that I saw this 2 days ago and I'm having to ask you details. So there's a point where she removes a message from a piece of clothing that he's making. And I remember at the time I saw what it said, but now my memory is failing me. I'm gonna have to see a neurologist after this episode. But do you remember what the message said?
So it said never cursed. And
never cursed.
I would actually, that's an important scene because
it's a wedding dress too, so that's actually kind of
it's a wedding dress
too.
And I forgot what the whole point. There's something to do with that and his mother, and I forget what her story with it, because something that had to do with the wedding and how she died and all that fun stuff. But that's an important scene because I think that's the moment where I think Alma realizes that she also needs to be considerate of what's important to him, because she kind of did this, sort of as like, okay, he needs to slow down so I can take care of him, disrupt or whatever. And then, when he's like finally asleep or whatever, she comes down and she asks how she can help. And that's when she finds the message written in there. She's taking it out. I think she's going to put it back in though, because they're taking that piece of fabric off. But the only other time we see something get hidden in the fabric is with her dress. The only thing that we see on screen, the first one he makes for Alma. And so I think that's when she realizes how important all this work is to him. So if you notice, the second time she poisons him, it's when he's on his vacay, and it's not going to disrupt his workflow, situation.
Right? No, I think you're onto something there too, because the reason that she's even able to see the message, so that's when the poison really hits him, and it's a wedding dress. It's a super important wedding dress. It's for a very, just like all of his clients, it's for some very important person. But when the sickness takes him, he ruins the dress.
Yeah.
He falls on top of it. The lace is torn. He gets shoe polish on the dress.
Yep.
So I think you're onto something. I also think she kind of realized, oh, dang, this is like affecting not just his work, but like some poor woman who's expecting this expensive dress. Like, I have now ruined this inadvertently by doing, having it timed this way.
She's going to do controlled poisonings now.
Right? Well, like, he's into it. Again, like, that's the crazy thing is, like, who knows if one day she's going to go too far and accidentally kill him. But that's the thing that makes it such an interesting, and it's toxic, but it is arguably still kind of romantic that they have this weird, it's almost like, if people do BDSM at home, that might not be your cup of tea. It's their thing that they do,
Someone needs to.
I would not condone controlled poisonings of your partner, but it is sort of like, oh, that's sweet for them.
She was microdosing before it was a thing.
Right.
Someone needs to recut the trailer of this movie to the song "Toxic." But no, what I was gonna say? Oh my god! And you just pointed it out. And okay, yeah. Where because you mentioned, could she one day kill him or not? That, to me, that's what it takes me to the end of the movie. There's some discussion. Some people think she actually did kill him the second time. Some people think that she's Delulu, because she kind of goes and like, because first off, she has the whole thing is framed around this conversation she's having with Dr. Hardy, and
that character.
My question is, like, why is she sitting there having a whole conversation with him about him if he just stopped by for a house call? That's interesting. And then she kind of goes on to this thing of what she imagines their future would be like, and she talks about them having a baby together, which I'm like, I don't think Reynolds is the type of guy to have a baby. Like that just seems like not his jam, like, at all. So I'm like, is she just a little delulu about what she's going to accomplish through this? Possibly. But then there's also the idea that one of her other ideas is she wants to have a bigger role in the dressmaking in his fashion house. But when we see those scenes, he's not in them. So I'm just like, is he dead, or is she just delusional? Like, because neither of those things, I could see her maybe getting a bigger role in the house, but the fact they chose not to show us Reynolds, to me, is intentional. And also the idea of them having a baby together sounds like a recipe for disaster. So I'm also just like, or is she just really, really delusional about how this is all going to play out, because we've already saw what happens. He's fine for a couple months or whatever, and then he becomes himself again. And then she's like, oh, well, time to poison him again. It's like, really, you want to like raise a child in that environment? Girl, like what planet are we on? Because it's obviously not Earth.
Right? Yeah. And that's like a whole other thing that we could get into, because I forgot about the framing device, because it almost like it's like the movie forgets about it for a bit, like in a good way. Like it punctuates certain points in the movie. And you're right, she is being very open with the doctor about it. And that whole exchange earlier in the film between them is incredibly funny, because it's like she's, she's kind of a jerk to him when he's trying to like look at her husband.
Oh, that's right.
But yeah, which makes sense, because I think, she doesn't want him to find out that it's like poison mushrooms and stuff like that. And also that like it is a two-way kink. He gets off to feeling like a helpless baby, and she gets off to nurturing him like it's like a weird mommy baby kind of thing.
They are like one step away from diaper play.
It is a kink. Well, I mean, who knows? He might poop his pants when he's,
sick.
When he's under the. Definitely stuff was coming out the front door. Who's to say? Who's to say about the back door? No, but it's like, that's the thing too. Like when I first saw this, I might have even audibly said like, oh man, it's like a kink for them, because it is. It's weird. It's dangerous. I wouldn't, as I said, I wouldn't advocate for anyone actually doing this. But it's like, again, if you're into like rope play or something like that, you could end up suffocating somebody. So everyone does their weird stuff consensually, and you just kind of have to hope that they're safe about it. And that's where it gets weird and dubious too. And maybe that's why she's talking to the doctor about it. Maybe he's like concerned because Reynolds has gotten poisoned so many times that she's like, okay, I'm just going to come out and tell him. And, like, hey, Reynolds is, he's consenting to this. You can go talk to him in his bedroom and he'll say the same thing I'm telling you right now.
Right.
But that is kind of an interesting element of mystery. And that's something I like in movies too, where it's like things that will never be answered in the film that are good topics of discussion. Because we never find out why she's talking to the doctor. And that is a cool fan theory I was not aware of, that she's like, admitting what she was doing because Reynolds died. And it's plausible. Something I was thinking about is, she seems to know what she's doing as far as dosing, but one thing, I don't know if it works this way with poison mushrooms, but most things you can kind of build up an immunity to. So that to me would make me think that she has to use more and more mushrooms every time. And what if at one point she just gives him the lethal dose accidentally? Like, it is sort of a thing that would be bound to happen at some point.
Well, I'm like, if she doesn't give him the lethal dose this time, because if you look at what the first time was, she mashed everything down, and then she took a thimble, and then she like took a tiny spoon out of the thimble, and that's what got him that sick the first time. And this time she's just throwing full-on mushrooms just in his omelet. And I'm just like, oh, so we're full in on this. like it, to me, right? It's very obvious that I think this time she was trying to kill him. I think she was.
Well, so the thing about using the mortar and pestle is like, fun fact, I also had mushrooms with my steak last night for dinner. They're mostly full of moisture. So if you like cooked a mushroom down, it loses a lot of size. Sort of the same way with vegetables.
Yeah.
So it's also like you said with the first dosage in his tea, because you were also kind of worried about how much it was. Like, she probably pounded a lot of mushrooms down into that thimble, because once you squash them down with the mortar and pestle, a lot of mushrooms is going to get condensed down into a tiny amount.
Right.
So you might be right, and it might have something to do with what I was just saying about having to use more and more every time. But it's hard to say unless we get like a definitive answer about whether he died that second time or not, because she could have used the same amount of mushrooms and just cooked them instead of grinding them down. But we don't know, because we're not the ones making the omelet.
I was just like, that ending, to me, that ending was so weird. It's like, I said she either killed him or she's delusional. One of those two things happen. Because, like I said, the thing about them having a baby together, like she's talking about maybe their potential future, to me that doesn't track with his personality at all. And then, like I said, he's missing from the shots where she's having a bigger role in the fashion house. So who knows what's like who's to say what is exactly? But then at the very end, they show him like laying on her lap or something. But then I'm just like, is he even actually there, or is this Is this a ghost again? Like we saw his mother. Is she now seeing?
Or is it like Psycho and she's had him stuffed, just like
right,
just like the mother in Psycho.
Just keeps him around,
keeps him in the bedroom,
talks to him. She's actually crazy.
Right?
I mean, I think she is crazy. She is crazy. She has issues, but like how crazy are we talking? Well, I do have some last piece of trivia for you before we review it. Are you aware of the Taylor Swift connection?
No, hey, let's hear it.
So in 2023, when she was Times Magazine's Person of the Year, she revealed in her interview that she was inspired to write her song Mastermind after watching this movie. And so she said, and actually it was a big enough deal that Focus Features actually shared the quote on their page, along with the visual of one of my favorite visuals in the movie, which is the two of them dancing when she's in her Delulu state at the end on the party floor, and it's just them, and then everybody kind of comes back. I love that visual. Anyway, so in her interview, she said, "Remember that last scene? I thought, wouldn't it be fun to have a lyric about being calculated? It's something that's been thrown at me like a dagger, but now I take it as a compliment." So basically, she was talking about the last scene where Alma's talking about everything that she did to keep him with her, all the sort of stuff that she did. And Taylor was like, "That's such an interesting concept. Let me write like a song where somebody like calculated, a way to make it to get their ideal person or their relationship." Mastermind's a really good song. You actually saw it when you saw the Eras Tour movie.
Oh, I love that song. It's a good, because I talked about it way back when we talked about the Eras Tour thing, but it's one of those songs I had never heard, but I liked it because it kind of gives you the backstory of like how she didn't have a lot of friends, and like the song is about how it's like now she is the biggest artist in the world, and it was all her plan all along when she was like 10 years old. Like, I'm gonna get really good at music and I'm gonna be the voice of a generation, and then everyone will be my friend.
Exactly. Exactly.
Wouldn't have gotten the connection between that and this, but it is cool that she was inspired by this film, and certainly Alma was plotting.
Yeah,
Alma be plotting for sure. Well, so what score out of 4 would you give it?
I'm gonna give it a 3 out of 4. Like I said, this is such a beautiful movie and such I just feel classy watching it, and it's so beautifully made. With the music is just epic and sweeping, and like I said before, lush. The performances are great. The styling is impeccable. I do think it kind of the plot is sort of just kind of goes a little crazy, but in a good way towards the end. But altogether, I think it's a totally solid movie that I like I said, I just enjoy vibing with.
Right? I'm going to be extra nice. I don't give out perfects very often, but I feel like this deserves it. I can't think of the only thing I could think of someone arguing about is like whether the relationship is good or not. Like the content of like what happens in the story, I could see someone like nitpicking at, but as far as like a story that is told well, and is shot well and is acted well, like it's genuinely perfect. And I love that it ends when it does, because it stops. I have been saying this about a bunch of directors, and Paul Thomas Anderson is no exception. I'd say my favorite film of his is There Will Be Blood, and it's 3 hours long. So this doesn't feel its length. It's like 2 hours and 17 minutes. I would have guessed it was like an hour and 30 or an hour and 40 minutes, because it doesn't,
I will tell you,
linger on things.
My first viewing, it felt like it was 3 hours. This time, it felt like you said more like 90. So I do think...
Right, and again, like, to me, I think the reason it didn't happen my first viewing was because, again, once Alma poisoned him, I was like, oh my god, it got interesting.
It got good.
Before, it's just, you know what I mean? Like, it's just kind of them doing their thing. But it doesn't feel its length. There is no superfluous scene I would cut out of the movie. And as far as technical achievement, you know, just like all of his other movies, it's perfect. The cinematography, the music, everything's great. So, you know, I don't give out perfect scores all the time, but I'm going to give this a 4 out of 4. I frankly think it's kind of underrated. You don't see, and maybe it's because it's quote unquote a girl movie or something, but again, the Paul Thomas Anderson's insufferable fans don't talk about this one as much as they talk about Magnolia or There Will Be Blood or, you know, like, but frankly, it's really good. And even his new film, which I was gushing over during the finale, is also like 3 hours
right
long.
It's like these people never heard of editing,
right? At least, like, I think I even said it in our finale, but like with One Battle After Another, it's hard because it is kind of a long story that spans a lot of years, and so it's like, it's long, but it also doesn't feel like it's just being showy. And then also the very end of the movie is very tense because there's like a car chase, yada yada yada. All of his movies are usually very long, so this is like a nice, perfect... I think like the only other one I can think of, actually, Punch Drunk Love, is like 90 minutes or 100 minutes, so that's another one where it's like, it gets in, it gets out, bada bing. But yeah, 4 out of 4 for me. I think this is one of his best films, and I'm even contemplating owning it. I liked it so much.
Is it in the Criterion?
But... It might be. It might be. They do like to put it. That's the thing about the Criterion Collection. Once they find a director they like, they just tend to always have their films in the Criterion. Like Wes Anderson is one where his entire filmography, I'm pretty sure, is all in the Criterion Collection.
Let me see, because that's the edition I'd want to pick up. But yeah,
I'd be surprised if he isn't, because I know some of his films are, and like I said, with directors, they tend to like a director, and then they just put all of their movies in the Criterion Collection. But what do you think? Did you like this episode? Do you want to hear more? We've got a whole backlog, and if this is the first episode you're hearing in our Crazy Couples pairing, we got a whole other episode on War of the Roses that you can check out. But coming up, depending on how things go behind the scenes, you guys might be hearing our Oscars opinions and predictions, or we might be going into our next pairing. But until then, I've been Whiskey.
I've been Sweet Tea.
Keeping it Kino.
And suck it, Scorsese.
See you next time, guys. Kiss me before I'm sick.
Oh, no. Bye.
Bye.
Reels on the Rocks is a production of La Prince Laboratories. It is edited and produced by Alejandro Castillo and programmed by Jamie King. Original music is provided by Pat Mars, and original artwork by Asa Esparza.